Chapter 2. Tuesday. I did not sleep well. While tossing and turning for hours, I tried to figure out how to avoid Sammy. I could be late to school and skip breakfast entirely, but Sammy would just be waiting for me the next day. If I told the principal what happened, everyone would know I told. Snitch! I could hear the name calling in my ears already. None of my friends would trust me with their secrets anymore. I could run away. No, that's silly. Where would I go? I don't have any money, and since they're both deployed, I shouldn't give my parents anything else to worry about. Aunt Misty probably wouldn't even look for me. She'd probably wait for the natural consequences of hunger and sleepiness to drive me home. Did you complete your social studies assignment? Asked Aunt Misty the next morning as I dragged myself into the kitchen. Yeah. Baked potatoes. Now that all my assignments were listed in a digital classroom, she got email notifications for every single one. I was supposed to draw a picture of my community support system. Family, friends, neighbors, stuff like that. I scrounged around in the junk drawer for something to draw with and found one of those clicky pens with multiple colors. It looks brand new, I thought as I grabbed it. Sure, I could have used the drawing app on my tablet, but I lost my stylus and I hate drawing with my finger. Mrs. Diction expected us to share our drawings with the class, and there was nothing more embarrassing than standing in front of 20 other students without anything to show. Using a paper from Aunt Misty's printer, I scribbled a quick stick family around a circle that represented my world. Aunt Misty was on one side, and my parents were on the other. Even if they weren't on the exact opposite side of the world, it sure felt like it. My knowledge of geography was pretty weak, so that was the best I could do. As I considered my little support system, 3 people didn't seem like enough. There was no one in that circle I wanted to talk to about my problem with Sammy. Wouldn't it be nice if I had a dragon? No one would be mean to me then. I clicked the pen and drew a big green dragon behind me with its wings spread wide. How scary do I want it to be? My friends shouldn't be afraid of it. I tapped the pen on my chin. It could look friendly until I sick it on someone. I gave it a smile. I wrote my name and the date at the top of the paper and shoved it back in the mesh pocket on my backpack. As soon as I did, I regretted it. Now everyone will think I have imaginary friends. Oh well. I could figure out a way for it to sound cool. Bye, Aunt Misty. Goodbye, dear. Have a nice day. Tossing the pen back in the drawer, I snatched the last banana and ran out the door, still unsure what I was going to do about Sammy. My steps slowed the closer I got to school, and my stomach hurt. The paper sticking out of my backpack fluttered in the breeze. Then a strange thrumming noise sounded behind me. Air whooshed around me, nearly blowing me over. I turned around and my mouth fell open. A huge flying monster swooped down and hovered over me. It was a dragon! The dragon was white with a shimmer of green. Its body looked more like a gecko without scales. The green eyes squinted at me, and it opened its mouth a little. It's smiling, I thought with a shock. The sun shone through paper-thin wings, which looked about strong enough to lift a gnat. I stood there staring, and it nodded its head towards the school. A car driving by slowed and ran into the curb. I forced my feet to move, and the dragon followed, flying a few feet above my head. What am I going to do with a dragon at school? Where did it come from? In a stupor, I walked into the school parking lot, past the line of cars. Everyone stared at me and my dragon shadow. Some of them whipped out their cell phones and started videoing. The teachers on car duty froze. The students on the porch were mesmerized and walked toward me slowly. A kindergartner started crying and hugged her sister. Finally, the principal rushed out of the building, waving his arms. "Stop! You can't bring a dragon to school!" exclaimed Mr. Frist. "Why?" was the only thing I could think of to say. "Well, because pets are not allowed." "It's not a pet." I didn't even know where it came from, so I sure didn't know how to send it back. I waded through the growing crowd of onlookers, eager to escape from all the attention. Once I was inside, I turned around, wondering how the dragon would fit. As I watched, it folded its arms in half and flattened its body, sailing through the open doors like a paper airplane. It landed without a sound and returned to its normal shape, if a dragon's shape could be thought of as normal. "It's not safe," protested Mr. Frist. I stopped and glanced around. What was I supposed to do? Sirens sounded in the distance. This is getting serious. "Should I take it home?" I asked uncertainly. Yes, I think that's the best idea," Mr. Frist sighed in relief. The receptionist motioned to him through the office door, and he hustled away. A fire truck pulled up outside the cafeteria windows. By now, all the students were screaming, yelling, and pointing. "Where did you get that?" Peyton cowered behind me and gaped. "It just appeared," I said defensively. A thought occurred to me, and I pulled my drawing out of my backpack. The dragon had disappeared from the picture. "Students, we ask that you proceed directly to your classrooms and remain there until further notice," said a crackly voice over the intercom. Teachers began hustling kids out of the halls, staying as far away from the dragon as possible. Several police cars sped into the parking lot with their lights flashing. The dragon looked at me as if asking what to do as the officers stepped out of their vehicles. I ran around the corner of the hall. "Follow me," I told the dragon. I ducked into the restroom, out of sight of the security cameras. The dragon glided after me. "Quick, get back on the page." I held out the crumpled paper. "I hope this works." The dragon bent down, gently brushed its nose against my forehead, and flicked its tongue in my hair. It felt like being kissed by a moth. Then it folded itself over and over until it had returned to its original size and fluttered onto the paper. Magically, the dragon flattened and melted into the white background until it was perfectly smooth. Then I stuffed it in the front pocket of my backpack. A kindergartner stared at me with dripping wet hands. "Here you go." I moved out of the way of the paper towel dispenser. The kid just stood there. The intercom crackled again, calling me to the office. Great. I sighed and shuffled back down the hallway. "What nonsense!" exclaimed Aunt Misty when she burst into the principal's office an hour later. "Come on," she motioned to me. "Let's get you out of here." I jumped out of the chair with relief. Since the creature had disappeared, all I had done was sit there, being uncomfortable and repeating, "I don't know," until the secretary had been able to call my aunt's number. "But ma'am," protested the principal, "we still can't figure out what happened to the dragon. We need to ask you some questions." Aunt Misty threw up her hands. "What dragon? All anyone caught on their cell phones or cameras was a blur, like a filter on a photo editing app. The police have already left. Other parents are picking up their children, and so am I." She took me by the shoulders and guided me gently but firmly out the office door. When we made it outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. Aunt Misty smiled. "How about we walk down to the donut shop?" My stomach grumbled, reminding me that I had missed breakfast again. That would be great. I love Aunt Misty. That night, I lay in bed, studying the shadows on the ceiling. I wonder if the dragon is still there. Curious, I got up and pulled the paper out of the pocket where I'd left it. I smoothed it out and laid it on my desk. The moonlight pouring through the window provided enough light for me to see the drawing. It looked just the same. The dragon smiled back at me. I thought it winked, but it may have been my imagination. I wonder if we will have school tomorrow. Maybe by the time we go back, Sammy will have forgotten about me. Or maybe fear of the dragon will protect me from bullies. I doubted it. If I talked about the drawing or threatened Sammy with it, the grown-ups would just take it away, and I would be in even more trouble. What I needed was something scary, but unconnected with me. I snuck out of my room and retrieved the pen from the drawer. Aunt Misty sat in her armchair reading, but she didn't notice me. Back in my room, I stared at the paper and clicked the pen. Will this really work? In the background of the drawing, I added a stick figure. Above it, I sketched an alien spaceship pulling the figure up in a tractor beam. Behind it, I drew a fleet of tiny ships. I labeled the figure Sammy and crawled back into bed, but I forgot to change the date.